It was the winter of 1975, deep in the forests of Oregon, when a young man named Charles McCullar vanished without a trace. He was just 19 years old, full of life, chasing his dream of adventure and photography. He had traveled across the country with his camera, drawn to wild places and untouched landscapes. But the one place that would capture him forever was the remote, snow-laden wilderness surrounding Crater Lake National Park. The last time anyone saw Charles alive, he was full of excitement, telling his friends that he planned to photograph Crater Lake in its winter beauty. He left his Volkswagen van parked near the entrance to the park, shouldered his backpack, and disappeared into the forest alone. Days passed, then weeks, and as snow covered the trails, the park swallowed him whole. No footprints, no gear, no camera, just silence. The story of Charles McCullar would go on to become one of the strangest and most unsettling disappearances in American wilderness history. And decades later, it still chills investigators and hikers alike because what was eventually found raised more questions than it answered. Hit that subscribe button for more dark truths. Charles was from Virginia, a college student and budding photographer. He'd been on a cross-country trip, stopping at national parks to document America's natural beauty. By all accounts, he was experienced outdoors, though not a survivalist. He knew how to camp, how to hike, and he wasn't reckless. But Crater Lake in winter is no place for the unprepared. Temperatures drop below freezing. Snow can bury trails in minutes. The park is a crater formed by an ancient volcanic eruption, surrounded by steep ridges and dense pine forests. It's beautiful, yes, but it's also unforgiving. When Charles didn't return, his friends thought maybe he'd gone further north. His father, William McCullar, grew worried after weeks without a call or letter. By mid-February, William made the trip himself from Virginia all the way to Oregon to search for his son. He contacted local rangers, plastered flyers, talked to locals. But there was nothing. No one had seen the young man since the day he disappeared. Winter turned into spring and hope began to fade. Rangers assumed Charles had been caught in a storm, maybe fallen through ice or slipped into one of the park's hidden ravines. But there was no sign of his body. No gear, no clothing, just a void. It wasn't until a year and a half later that something was found. But it wasn't what anyone expected. In July 1976, two hikers exploring a remote area off the Crater Lake rim stumbled upon something strange: an old torn-up pair of jeans lying in the dirt. They were upright, almost as if someone had been sitting when they disintegrated. Inside the jeans were bones. Not a full skeleton, just fragments. And near the jeans, they found the top of a skull, detached and lying several feet away. No camera, no boots, no jacket, just jeans, socks, and a few scattered bones. Hit that subscribe button for more dark truths. When authorities arrived, they were stunned by the scene. The jeans were still buttoned, still upright, positioned oddly in the wilderness. It looked, one ranger later said, like he had just sat down and melted away. There were no signs of animal activity nearby, no clear signs of foul play, just quiet, eerie emptiness in the middle of the forest. Even stranger Charles's heavy boots, which he'd been wearing when he left, were gone. The thick belt he always wore? Missing too. His backpack and camera? Nowhere to be found. What remained were partial leg bones inside the jeans, small fragments of ribs, and a skull cap about 12 feet away. Forensic tests confirmed the remains belonged to Charles McCullar. But how they got there defied explanation. The area where his remains were found was 12 miles from where his car was parked. In winter, that distance through deep snow and steep terrain would have been nearly impossible, even for a seasoned hiker. No trails connected directly. The route required crossing icy ridges and frozen creeks. So how did a 19-year-old make it there alone, in the dead of winter, without leaving a trace? Charles's father, William, who had spent months searching for his son, was heartbroken. When investigators described what they found, he said quietly, "That's not something a boy could do. That's something else." The official explanation was grim but simple. The Park Service concluded Charles got lost, froze to death, and animals later scattered his remains. But that didn't make sense to everyone. Not by a long shot. There were too many inconsistencies. For one, the remains showed little evidence of scavenging. The jeans were oddly intact, still buttoned, still standing upright. How does that happen to a body left in the elements for over a year? Secondly, the location was too remote, even for experienced hikers. There was no reason for Charles to be there, and no sign of how he reached it. And then there were the missing items: his boots, belt, camera. They were never found. They just vanished. Those eerie details caught the attention of researchers studying strange wilderness disappearances, especially former police officer and author David Paulides, who later coined the term Missing 411. Paulides compiled hundreds of similar cases: experienced hikers vanishing near water, sudden weather changes, odd recovery sites, remains found in impossible locations. Charles's case fit that pattern perfectly. It's easy to say these stories are just tragic accidents. After all, nature is dangerous. But the missing 411 cases share unsettling similarities: clothing found neatly folded, bodies recovered years later in places already searched, no tracks, no struggle, missing shoes or gear, and sometimes missing time. In Charles's case, the lack of clear evidence opened the door to countless theories. Some said avalanche or blizzard. Others suspected foul play. But there were no footprints, no campsites, no tire tracks. The only human presence for miles was his own. Then came the stranger theories. Some whispered about hidden caves or military testing, others about portals or abductions. It sounds absurd until you realize how impossible the facts already are. To this day, no one knows what really happened in those woods. But what keeps this story alive isn't just the mystery, it's the stillness of it all. Imagine walking through the forest and finding a pair of jeans sitting upright in the dirt, filled with bones that once belonged to someone's child. No struggle, no violence, just silence. That image stays with you. In the official report, one ranger described the scene as oddly peaceful. But when you think about what it means, there's nothing peaceful about it. It's as if the forest itself kept a secret. And when it finally gave it up, it made sure to leave everyone more confused than before. Charles's father refused to believe his son simply froze. He said, "My boy knew how to handle himself. Something happened to him out there that we'll never know." His voice was quiet, but certain. There was no closure, only absence. Crater Lake National Park has a long, strange history. Locals have spoken for decades about lights over the lake, people vanishing near its rim, and a feeling that settles in at dusk like the air itself is watching. Native legends describe it as sacred, dangerous, even cursed. Some say it's a gateway between worlds. And while rangers may not believe in curses, many admit there's something about Crater Lake that feels different. One ranger who helped recover Charles's remains later told a reporter, "We get plenty of accidents up here, but this was strange. Everything about it was strange." After the discovery, the case quietly faded. There was no trial, no suspect, no resolution. Charles's remains were returned to his family, and that was that. But those who study missing 411 cases know an official ending doesn't mean resolution. Some mysteries never let go. Patterns repeat. Clusters appear. Dogs refuse to track. Bodies are found in previously searched areas. And victims? Often lovers of nature. Just like Charles. He wasn't running from anything. He just wanted to capture beauty through his camera lens. But whatever he found out there took everything from him, including his story. If you ever visit Crater Lake, you'll understand the isolation. The rim towers nearly 2,000 feet above the water. The silence is absolute. The air feels thin and heavy. If you hike alone, you might notice the birds go quiet. You might feel eyes on you though no one's there. Maybe it's the wind. Maybe it's the weight of all those who never came back. For Charles, the forest remains his final resting place. His name now joins a long list of others, ordinary people who vanished in national parks under impossible circumstances. No one saw it happen. No one heard him call for help. He simply stepped into the woods and the woods never let him go. We often think of wilderness as something pure, untouched, beautiful, free. But in places like Crater Lake, beauty and danger coexist. And sometimes, when nature decides to keep a secret, it does so perfectly. So what really happened to Charles McCullar? Was it hypothermia? Disorientation? A tragic accident? Was there foul play or something stranger? Something beyond what we can explain? Maybe we'll never know. Maybe that's why the story still lingers after 50 years. The photographs he dreamed of taking were never found, but his story remains. An unfinished frame in the dark gallery of the missing 411. What do you think happened? Leave your thoughts in the comments and hit that subscribe button for more dark truths.